Hey, Paul. Well, while we have half the country digging out from snow and ice and so forth, it was great to see people still able to connect in for our coffee talk. Some people were dialing in from home and finding their way here because today's topic was about vendor
I know
relationships.
they were so passionate about vendor relationships. Literally, we saw snow in the background in Nashville. We had a marketing director from Texas who literally had to leave the call because they had to go get some porta potties, right? Typical marketing director duty, but like duty, no pun intended. But vendor relationships are such a topic that they still showed up today.
Yes, yes, and there was a lot of really. I really liked the feel of the conversation today. You know, while there's some frustrations and so forth, there was a this overarching theme, which was that these relationships matter, and we need to think of the quality of the relationships, and the vendors have a lot of that responsibility, and so do marketers at at our dealerships and our dealer groups to create the environment where there's openness and trust. And there was a whole bunch of conversation around how vendors can do better at being open with their dealer bodies, not to act in fear of losing business, but tell us what's really going on. This was a real key theme throughout the conversation today.
It really was. I mean, it's and we touched on the fact that it's not just vendor dealer relationships, but relationships in general. And when both parties are free to kind of be honest with one another, everybody wins in a major way. Like Drew, you and I now are in the seat of a vendor, so the insights of what it feels like when you don't get the whole story or you don't really know about the product that you're trying to tell them works, or how, like, just being honest and saying, hey, it might take a few more days or it might take a few more dollars up front instead of trying to hide it and then kind of deliver it all at once, like how that's detrimental to a relationship. So I think that from a vendor standpoint, it's like, hey, the more upfront you can be with people upfront, the better the relationship's going to be. From the dealer side, the more the expectation of just free flow of communication and setting that tone at the outset of your relationship could really benefit everybody in both organizations.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I'm not sure how many vendors actually watch our recap videos, but if you're a vendor who's watching this, there were a few very key things that the crew want vendors to know or rethink. Don't sell every time you call. That is a huge frustration of marketing directors, and it just doesn't feel like a generous two-way relationship when that's the case. And for those folks who are on the sales side, there was quite a rant around ROI, and specifically the you only have to sell X number more cars. Um,
Don't ever
marketers
say that again.
marketers
Just
want a richer conversation than that, and it's a big pet peeve. So know that it's a pet peeve, and how can you change the conversation to create a richer conversation about value and opportunity, and bring best practices to the table instead. So lots of takeaways on the vendor side, but those are the two biggest ones. Paul, you had an interesting piece about the lizard brain uh,
yes.
and how
Yeah.
that comes into effect in these conversations.
Yeah. So Seth Godin, marketing guru and just a brilliant individual, says when somebody calls you in a meeting, whether it be a boss or maybe you're a vendor and the dealer says, hey, can we talk for a minute? Immediately, the human lizard brain, which is the primal structure in the brain, goes, oh my gosh, they want to talk. Something's wrong. I'm going to get fired. I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to lose my house. Can't pay my mortgage. I'm going to be homeless. I'm going to die. And whether or not you like it, that is where your natural primal brain is going to go. So when it comes time to have communication like that, know that the other person is going to go there. So we can do some really intentional things to get around that. Hey, can we talk for a few minutes about this? Right. So yeah, but that's just no on both sides. Like That's how it's working, especially if you're a vendor and a dealer wants to talk.
Absolutely. So we wrapped up talking about what can our tier 3 marketers do to improve the relationships, and there were two real key things that that stood out, and both of them were about asking, making asks. So ask for what you want. Be really clear with your vendor. What do you want as far as reporting and rhythms. When you have that clarity with the vendor is also able to make sure they're meeting your needs. So that was one big thing. And also steering the vendor towards best practices and getting best practices out of them. Ask for, what are the best practices with your technology or your offering, and do you have case studies or resources or materials or videos that help me understand how to get the most out of that product, and whether the vendor has that available and how they deliver that is actually a really big tell on their capabilities and how they'll manage the relationship.
Very true. Very true.
So, so another good chat, and we certainly welcome automotive marketing leaders, tier 3, whether you're at a single point dealership or with a big group. We've got participants that span the spectrum, and always a lively conversation. So we would love to have you join us. I'll make sure I've got the link to join posted here with the video. And Paul, always a pleasure to spend this time with you. It's always fun every couple of weeks to have these rich, deep chats.
Yeah, one of my favorite parts of the month, or twice a month, actually.
Twice a month, yes.
Two favorite parts. Thanks, Drew.
Great, thanks. We'll see you next time.